Hello, everyone. Welcome into today's session, AI in Organizational Change Management, Where to Use AI and Where to Stay Human, presented by our Director of Business Solutions here at Watermark Learning, Dr. Susan Heidorn. My name is Mariela Salinas, and I'll be assisting and moderating today's session. We are on Zoom for today's webinar, and we will be emailing you a copy of this session in an email after the registration after the presentation. We do encourage participation throughout the session, so please use our chat or that Q&A option for a short Q&A after the presentation. Educate 360 and Watermark Learning are so excited to present this webinar today. So without further ado, I will hand it right over to you, Dr. Heidorn.
Thank you very much, Mariella. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are from. So I am just curious, how many of you are figuring out AI, or maybe in the midst of it? Just raise your hand, or how many of you are, or just you might have just joined this because you're going, wow, that sounds kind of interesting. Or are you in the midst of AI trying to figure it out in what you do? So I'm just kind of curious. So I thought, well, I'll just have you raise your hands real quick and see how many of you are, and your hands on your reaction bar. But that's kind of, even if we're not immediately involved, it seems like peripherally, if that's a word, we're in the midst, because we hear from our colleagues, we hear from our friends, I hear from all my students going, oh my gosh, what is this? What do I need to do? So, AI promises a lot. And if you've been in this industry as long as I have, and I hate to date myself too much, but you see the ebbs and flows. And I'm going to say none of it is a panacea, none of it is a silver bullet, but it does provide, speed. It does provide. I mean, I use AI every single day, on thinking or documenting or creating class materials or figuring out, how do I say this? I mean, it's so what AI does is help us in the org change. So org change, whole purpose is to help people adapt to the change. And that might be, the whole change might be AI, but we're also going to talk about how do we take AI and use it, adopt it actually into our OCM work. So we're going to talk about really, where does AI truly help? And because it can't do the whole thing by itself, we need humans, and where human judgment is still needed. It still rules. We still need to make decisions. Still need to say, hey, does this even make sense? Because a lot of times when I'm even doing, of course, this does not make sense. You better rethink this. So we still need people. And so we're going to be talking about that. How do we take AI and put it into the OCM life cycle, looking at, can we assess change readiness? How can we do planning, implementation, sustainability, all things like that. So we're going to tell you where it can help, because there is, I mean, it can certainly help you a lot and make things go a little faster. But then, we have to say, where do we still need human people? Because because we do. It doesn't mean that it's taken the humanness out of decision making and understanding and critical thinking and all of that. In fact, I think our critical thinking needs to even be more robust as we parse through the world of AI. So today we're going to talk about AI workflows across the OCM lifecycle. We're going to talk about where AI adds value and where humans still really add value. So we're going to kind of parse that out for you. And then we're going to talk also about some safeguards. We sometimes go, it's like, oh yeah, this is great, but we still have to follow the rules. Where does it come around data privacy or bias testing, etc.? So how do we make sure that we do use an ethical use of AI in our OCM efforts in our organization? So that's what we're going to take a look at today. I bet none of you had any changes in the past year. I say that tongue in cheek. There's changes all around us. I mean, I swear, I used to always say changes gets really fast. And every year I say, oh my gosh, it's getting faster and faster. I feel like that little gerbil, in the wheel and it's going round and round faster and faster. It's like, oh, I gotta keep up. So there's lots of things coming our way, right? And besides certainly AI, new processes, new technology, which AI is of course part of, new process improvements, reorgs. We're constantly here, even at Educate 360 have, and Mariella can attest to this. I think we've had lots of reorgs and lots of, we do mergers because of course we buy companies and acquisitions, new methodologies. We just thought we got through Agile and now we're learning different ones. So I'm just curious, love to hear from you. I'm going to put your mind to work here a little bit. What kind of changes are coming across your desk? Is it more about new processes? Is it new products, new technology? Where are those coming from? I'd love to hear what you're doing out there and what you're seeing. So new to AI, in the midst, using it. All right. Yes. Microsoft Copilot. Yep. All of the above. Michelle, that says, well, yeah, all of this. You probably all feel that way. It's like, yep, yep, yep. All of those things we're in the midst of. And how do we do that? And then AI promises, we can do faster with less. So how do we do that? So we're going to be talking about that. Reorg more, yeah, doing more with less people, less time. Um, Looking to create an AI agent line, yep, adoption to new technologies. Um, finding a lot of new uses. Yeah, enter a very technology leads to reorg. Yeah, yeah, new processes lead to reorg. We've been reorg so much. I put in my performance review actually, and this is no secret, but it's like, we've changed so much. I don't know who to call anymore. Can somebody stop and just say, okay, where are we structured and who do I talk to now? Because people I used to talk to are gone, or the people that I used to talk to are in a different, group. And are they doing the same thing? I mean, it's just, it kind of slows you up because you're going like, now who do I talk to? So yeah, it's crazy. Was there a co-pilot for planning, creating forms and templates, ideas, polishing the writing? Yeah, I love it. So AI is great at doing a lot. And so we're going to talk about how can we use AI to be able to help our org change efforts. And hopefully they go smoother and faster, but like I said, we still need our human brain as well. So just a little bit of overview about change itself, just to make sure we're all on the same page, is that every project that we do, that we work on, maybe you're a PM, maybe you're a developer, maybe you're on the business side, it doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter what change or project we're doing. It could be a technology change, could be a process change, could be a reorg change. I've done lots of those. So every project introduces change because projects by nature are unique, and we're introducing something new, and then new brings change, and change brings uncertainty. And I don't know about you, but uncertainty kind of leads to anxiety, little confusion, maybe a little bit of resistance. Even, I teach all over the well, let's just say I teach a lot, kind of all over the country. And there's a lot of uncertainty out there. There's a lot of anxiousness, there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of resistance saying, is this going to take over my job? Will I have a job? Because supposedly AI will do everything. That was kind of like what they said about computers way back when, when we were getting personal computers. I know that dates me, but just to bring a little levity in, computers were going to take over the world, basically, and they were going to lead, be so helpful, I'm going to say, trying to think of a good word, that we were only going to work 3 days a week and we were going to do a lot of time sharing. I'm still waiting for that because I thought, wow, 3 days a week and getting a full-time pay. I haven't seen it yet. Computers made more work, and made more jobs, different jobs, certainly, but more jobs than we had before computers, doing it the old-fashioned way. And so if you've been around this industry, it ebbs and flows, and people just get so excited about the latest and greatest. And so then we have to calm down and say, okay, what is realistic? What is real? And that's what we're going to talk about is where can we get real with AI and where is it not going to really help us? But we do need to adapt. We need to adapt our ways of thinking, our ways of working. I've had to do that a lot. We're using simulations also in our classes, where we have AI personas out there that you can talk to and intermingle with. So I mean, it is a constant change. And so we need to put on our curiosity hat and our adaptability and our flexibility and our resilience, because it's not going to go away. We know we have to move forward. But then let's say, okay, let's figure out how do we use it in what we're doing and how do we realize value out of it. So just a little bit about org change management. This is a structured approach to help people adapt to change. It's one thing to implement new technology. It's another to implement, whatever AI you're using. But in order for you to get the value out of that, in order for your organizations to get the value of it, people have to adopt, people have to use it. Just because you give it to them, there will be some that use it, those early adapters will use it just like, cell phones and, I mean, anything you look at technology, you had always your early adapters and then your followers and then, and then there's going to be some holdouts, laggards, they're called. I don't know if I particularly like that name, but, it's how do we help people adopt and utilize in this new technology, and have them get value from it as well as the organization itself? And how do we sustain that? How do we sustain it? Because we tend as people to get comfortable in doing what we used to do. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't know how many times I've heard that. And, it's like, well, I like how I do it. I don't necessarily need this stuff. So that's what OCM is all about, is helping people adapt to new ways of working, new mindsets, So it's really always about the people, not technology, whether we succeed. It has to be the people, because you can bring the greatest technology. If they don't use it, it's not going to succeed. And I've seen that. I've been a consultant for over 30 years, and I have seen that a lot. In fact, that people usually clients bring me in to say, hey, help us. People aren't adopting. This is the third time we've tried to get this through. Well, it's because we're not watching the people, and that's what this is all about. So there is a transition process. Change is a process of helping people let go of their existing behaviors, old behaviors, their attitudes, their mindsets, because we used to come to work, we knew what we were doing, and now have something new. So we have to get them to help adopt those new behaviors, those new attitudes, those new mindsets to be able to get to the benefits and the outcomes we thought. So this actually is something that I use with my clients, to identify and have people. So I'm going to have you kind of identify where you're at, in regards to AI. AI was the change event. Maybe it was introduced to your organization. Some organizations said, okay, you are going to use this. You have no choice, whatever that is, whether it's Claude or ChatGPT or Copilot or whatever it is, it gets implemented. Okay. Always. And it doesn't matter what you're doing, a new process, building a new house, whatever, there's going to be moving across country. There's going to be some resistance, even if it's your decision. And a lot of times in organizations, those choices aren't ours to make. We just have to adapt. But there's going to be a little resistance. And some people will take like 5 minutes going, what are we doing? And then move on. Other people can take years. And that's what we don't want because we're not going to get the value. So there is going to be resistance. That is normal human behavior. Our brains are made to think that way. It's like, okay, should I fight or flight? You know, and kind of figuring out what does this mean to me? Should I be worried? Should I be concerned? I mean, I have a lot of people who in my classes and clients I talk to saying, people are just really fearful. And how do we get past the fearfulness? How do we get past the anxiety? How do we get past the resistance? So we have to get them to the point of letting go. It's okay, and then you're gonna, there's the chaos. It's like sometimes like, yeah, that kind of worked. No, it didn't kind of work. No, like I said, I use ChatGPT a lot just because that's just ended up what I had, and so I've been using it. I've used others too as Copilot and Claude. I just have done this because it's just my easiest go-to thing. So it's about, letting go, and so it's like, oh yeah, because I used to do my work, usually creating courseware materials, and I'd go, okay, then kind of do it the old-fashioned way, and then maybe I used it to, check it out. Does this make sense? Maybe sequencing. Am I missing any key things? And then so I tried that out or tried to reword some things that were on a slide going, this is really too wordy. Let's shorten this into like 3 bullet points. Tell me what they should be. I always looked it over first, but so just simple things. And then as I got comfortable, I'd gravitate to a little bit more and a little bit more. And now I said, okay, here are the parameters, create a class. And usually I give it some classes because I usually have material on it. I said, weave some of this in and then tell me what's missing. So, but there's some ebbs and flows. Sometimes it's really frustrating because they give me something that's like, where did I say that? And other times like, yeah, it makes sense. So then, you get some insight and vision, you get some better prompts, and then you practice, and then you get to the new status quo. How am I going to use this in my world, whatever that looks like? And so what I do is I ask people to identify where they're at, because where you're at is going to make a little bit of a difference on what's needed. So, resistance is sometimes, okay, I know I'm resistant. I need to put on my curiosity hat, and kind of figure out, if nothing, just do little small steps. That's when I let go, is that insight. It's like, okay, I'll just do it for this. And then I'll do it for this. And then I'll do it for this. And you keep adding on. And of course, your skill sets start building. So you practice enough, and then eventually you do get to a new status quo. So it is possible to get to that new status quo, but sometimes it takes people a little bit longer. Sometimes they're in chaos going, yeah, no, I don't like it. Yeah, I like it. No, I don't like it. So kind of going back and forth, but this is all normal. And what we want to try and do in org change management is, rather than saying, oh, you got 5 years to do this, how do we shorten that up and help them? Maybe it's coaching, maybe it's letting them just practice, maybe it's listening to them to get new ideas so you can get their buy-in. Oh, you know what? I could use it for this, so a lot of things there as we look forward to AI. So AI supports every activity in org change management. So if you either are org change manager, an org change agent, or someone who's just trying to help others through the process, AI is great to help support that, support us. But humans still need to apply their critical thinking, their critical thinking hat, put it and make decisions. Because what AI does, it's not magic, and you all know this. I'm preaching to the choir. It just goes out to the ether and says, "Okay, what are some things that I should bring to the table?" And it's not always right. And if you use it internally and only looking at your data, and if you talk to your people who manage your data in your organization, you will realize that that's not always correct either. So we got to look at when we're looking at data, let's look at the source. Is that true? Or do we have like five different sources that have looked at the data differently and, have different names to the same data? I mean, it can get really junky really fast. That was the same problems we had when we started data management and data warehouses that, bringing tons of data in so that we could read it, or even if we did it individually, but then we had to translate it because all the data was looking at a little bit differently. So we still need that human decision making, that human critical skills thinking. It's like, where is the data coming from? Is this correct? Because there's a lot of junk that is out there, garbage in, garbage out, and that's the same thing with AI. It doesn't always synthesize what's correct or not. It just takes. So we're going to talk about define the change. These are the key steps in organizational change management. Define it, assess it, plan it, implement it, and sustain it. So we're going to talk a little bit about the benefits. Change management is certainly becoming more complex as everything else. I mean, this isn't unusual. Just complexity is getting a little more and more. So AIs help us, and this is where AI is really a great tool for OCM people or people who need to do org change management, is it allows you to focus on the people and not the paperwork. So you do what you do best is, help people adopt, help people sustain, and help get their buy-in, help build their trust. That's where we still need people, not just to do a communication plan. So, it's great at analyzing feedback. Maybe we sent out a survey and said, yep, let's look at what the survey says. Looks like at the data and feedback. If there's anything that's repetitive, that's great. Communication. I love it for communication. Because I'm thinking, okay, well, this makes sense to me. And then I'll put it in saying, hey, make sure that it's more adaptable, or I'll focus it on my audience. If I'm sending the communication to executives, I'll say, give me executive perspective or in how I should write that, or give it to me for the end user. So the nice thing is it can take the same message and change it to what the audience needs. It certainly improves decision making because the more data I have, the better, decisions I can make. I'm always saying, show me the data. Where's the data? It certainly can accelerate adoption and then see, hey, did we get that success measures that we thought we were going to get? And bringing it into feedback. And we're going to talk a little bit about these. So we need to define the change. So whenever we're working on a new change, whether that be introduction of AI or introduction of anything, reorg, acquisitions, new process, new product, whatever. The first thing people want to know is the why. When my second boss, I had 4 bosses in the last 6 years, I think. I just wore them out. No, I'm kidding. But a lot of reorg is what happened. So my boss says, what do I need to know about you? I said, you got to tell me the why. If you give me the why behind it, I'm probably good to go. If you don't, I'm going to be resistant, looking on that little graph. And he said, yep, I'm going to be resistance because if I can't figure out why and I can't connect the dots, it's going to hard for me to do anything or implement or even want to for that matter. So why people want to know the why. It's like, why me? Why my processes? Why? And what's changing? Who's affected? What's expected of me? Will I have a job? Is my role changing? What do I need to be able to do? And so, how do AI can help us communicate in different ways the same message, but answering that why question. I'll give it a couple snippets, but I said let's focus on the why. Let's focus on what's changing. So we need to be able to do that. So AI can accelerate our communication. So it can draft our communications. Now a lot, sometimes I'll take it verbatim, sometimes I don't, and I'll reword it a little bit because it's like, no, they didn't quite get it. But it's a good start so that I don't have to start from scratch. And again, here's where I really love it. Tailoring messages for audiences. Because my audience, if it's executives, that's a far different message than the end users or the maybe the customers that are ancillarily impacted. So I can tailor those messages to them really easily. I used to take time going, okay, now how can I say this that they'll understand? How do I not put technicalese in it? I mean, it just in a second I'm going, okay, and I do generally tweak it, but tweak it and then I'm done. I mean, it's so much faster than me trying to think about it. Creating FAQs, you know, when you do a change, people have a lot of questions. Start collecting those questions and put them somewhere in some repository or intranet site or whatever to, quickly to say, hey, what are all the questions that we're hearing? Maybe they came in the form of a survey, or I might even just enter the questions and it's like, okay, create an FAQ with answers. And of course, obviously you have to look at the answers and say is it right or not? Convert content into different formats, and then really have a consistent, they say tone and language, but it really is consistent messaging. Even though you are meeting the audience where they need to be, you still want consistency in your messages, because if you don't have consistency in your org change messages, you're going to have 10 different people have 10 different ideas of what the change is about. And especially the why piece is so critical. We got to really be clear on why we're doing this. Is it just cause somebody thought it was a great idea? Which sometimes, don't you feel that way? You're in your organization and go, well, why are we doing it? Oh, I don't know. That's what management decided. Which is why I work with management saying, no, we got to get better at that. What's our messaging? So, but the message should be the same. How we approach the audience can be different. And that's one thing that AI does really, really well. So, and then also for stakeholder analysis, for any of you who are PMs or BAs or anybody else, we have to identify the stakeholders, who's involved. Oftentimes AI can help us do that really quickly. What groups might be involved in looking at the process and saying, oh, well, these people or this group or this department will also be involved. So, you can easily group stakeholders by their needs. It's a little bit harder for it to figure out who influences the most people, but certainly interest. It's like, okay, these people, these are the end users. They have a huge interest in this. This impacts them. Our external customers, well, not so much. The invoice is going to look a little different, or how they reach us is going to be a little bit different. So that it certainly can take a look at. And then summarizing your survey, summarizing feedback, which is critical. If you're going to be successful in any org change, you got to have a feedback mechanism. And feedback mechanism, AI is really good at, so that you can look and say, okay, what are people doing, feeling? Are they getting better? Are they getting more agitated? What's going on? So being able to assess org readiness, that's another thing. So once we communicate the why of the change, we got to figure out, is the organization ready for this? Or is this one more thing on their plate? That domino effect. It's just like, oh, please, please stop. So, and I've seen that in organizations where it's one major, and these are major, not just little bitty projects, which we all have to deal with all the time, but these major changes. Are the people ready for the change? Or is it you have so many changes that they're going to like, I'm done. I can't anymore. So looking at the org readiness. So how can AI help in org readiness? Well, a lot of feedback. So oftentimes I'll do surveys or interviews, and then maybe I'll just, put on the recording and get it analyzed, by Copilot. Makes it really simple and easy. It's like, okay, here are four of them, what are the patterns? What are we looking at here? So it can certainly take all the information that we're getting, maybe whether we were talking to someone, whether we sent out a survey, whether we're doing focus groups, whatever it is, taking all that information, comments, and look for themes. It doesn't have to be just one. We could, say, okay, we got all this feedback, I'm dump it in here and tell me what's going on. What are the common themes? What do we need to be watching out for? What are people most concerned about? Do you feel like the organization is ready for this? Not that AI feels, but okay, do you, is the organization ready? And kind of prioritize. Well, what things do we need to address for them? Which concerns do we need to address first? You know, how do we support them during these multiple changes? And so AI is really great at determining the patterns and the themes and the priorities. I mean, you still have to determine the priority yourself, but it will certainly go through it and say, hey, this is what we've been hearing the most, you know, prioritize it at least on what we're hearing. And then you, as a person, certainly need to go and say, hey, does that make sense? Do we really want to tackle one first, or maybe we want to tackle two first? So seeing if the organization is ready for change. And then, of course, like any effort, we have a plan. And so we plan for change. So we plan the approach. You can do change management in Agile as well as Waterfall. What are the goals, benefits, risk? Risk management is looking at more of the product and change risk versus the risk to the project, but it will still have a risk to the project as well. Timeline, budget, change network, training, support plans. Are we giving them cheat sheets? Are we going to give them a full class, 5 days? Are we just going to give them half-hour sessions? We're going to give them self-serve training, on time, on demand. How are we going to help them get over resistance? What's our plan there? What's our communication strategy? How often do we need to communicate to whom? What do we need to communicate to whom? So all of those pieces, so that we put a plan together. Now, of course, in Agile, it's a little bit lighter than Waterfall, but it can help us draft a plan, at least saying, here are the core things you need to, think about, Susan. And it can certainly, like we said, generate communication. Risk certainly can identify risk or help you determine what our risk strategies are. Should we mitigate it? Should we avoid it? Should we transfer it to somebody else so we don't have to worry about it? So just kind of trying to figure that out. And it can help. I love it for brainstorming too, as well. And so it's, thinking about, okay, how do we help get over resistance? So if you give it the information, the survey results, the interview results, the focus results, maybe you have a feedback box or some place where they can ask questions, so we can take all of that and figure out, okay, what are the things that we can do to help people get over resistance? And I might have some ideas, and some ideas are going to be really stupid. Other ideas are going like, hey, that is great. And other ideas might go, if we tweak it though, it could work. So kind of figuring out, what that looks like and then figuring out what success looks like. So AI certainly can help you do that, help you in the planning, help you fill out those templates that maybe you have to do. Or at least I like it because it gives me a checklist of things I need to think about. Well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? So that I'm not just thinking one way. It's like, okay, well, we communicated. Well, like that's enough. There's other things that I need to do. So, and because we're all so busy, it's sometimes nice to give me a checklist. So, can job aids, give me a job aid that's, a short checklist of things, we can send out to the people who are learning this new process, learning this technology, creating training simulations, personalizing the learning paths. Maybe some people need more, so maybe the end users need a lot of training, but the peripheral people who just maybe use a report or something, you know, don't need it as much, might have some virtual coaching. We have some virtual coaches in our organization where we take AI and you can talk to it and chat to it and micro learning, process feedback. And again, we kind of talked about that. So we can, look for that. And then implementing the change, obviously, after we plan it, we have to implement it. And then we're making sure that we got the benefits, and supporting the stakeholders. Because the thing is it'd be nice if everybody went to the group together and it's like, okay, everybody's in resistance, so let's do this. And everybody's letting go, let's do this. And everybody's in chaos, let's do this. They're going to be all over the place. Plus the fact it's not sequential. So somebody might have been in letting go and almost to insight and vision, and they took 2 weeks of vacation and fell back into chaos, going, oh, what am I supposed to do with this again? I forget. Um, and I've seen it happen. So that's why I say that. So you can slip back down that hill, and then, try and get yourself out of it. So people can be at any place. They can, we figured, oh yeah, they're all past resistance, and then they get resistant again because they learn something new or something is kind of being a barrier for them. So how do we support stakeholders in that transition period of time? So what AI can do certainly is, if you have any dashboards on success, it certainly can monitor that. It can, are people actually doing the work? You might want to send out surveys. You might want to talk to the supervisors of that group. Are there any bottlenecks in the process? So you could give AI the process step, the process map, flow chart, if you will, and say, hey, where might be some bottlenecks, some duplication, some things that aren't working. You know, again, self-serve support, chatbots, FAQs, just tracking engagement. Are people engaged or are we not hearing from some people? Because sometimes people just go really quiet. Some people get very vocal in change and want to be heard or have a lot of concerns. Others do the opposite. When we're looking at change, some people will just go underground, not talking. You don't even hear from them, which is really unusual. And so are people getting involved or have they just checked out and said, I can't do this. I just don't want to do this. So trying to work on that. And then of course, we have to sustain it. This is the area most companies don't do. I'm just gonna say don't do well. Because by the time they implement it, okay, they implemented AI. Okay, so everybody's got ChatGPT, everybody's got Copilot, everybody's got Claude, whatever it is. Done, implemented, off to the next project. But what happens we said people slide back. So we have to sustain it. And the thing is, if we think about habits, if anybody's done maybe a New Year's resolution or something, and said, okay, I'm going to the gym every day. I'm going to work out every day. Um, so it's interesting because unfortunately I do not go to the gym. It'd probably be a very good idea. But you go past it on January and you cannot find a parking spot to save your soul. I mean, they're parking way down the block, right? And you're having to walk there. And in Minnesota, it gets a little chilly, but people do it. And then in February, yeah, it's still kind of full. March, maybe a little bit less full. April, you could you can fight all your friends there and they still have parking spots. So the thing is that change takes time. New habits take time. And it doesn't matter what it is. It's just that it's going to take time. And generally, I always thought it was 28 to 30 days. It's like, but then I realized one day, it's like, you know what? I'm really good for the first like 30 days on changing anything, maybe I want to eat healthier or not drink my soda or whatever it is, I'm pretty good the first month. And then I get to that slippery slope on the second month. Oh, I'll just cheat a little bit and do it, and then pretty soon it's like, oh, I'm back to my normal self. Now I gotta start all over again. So I said, there's something about this. This is not, I thought it was 30 days. I'm really good for 30 days. Well, it turns out it's more like 66 to 80 days. You at least got to have 3 months under your belt to really do something. I'm going, oh, okay, that's what's happening to me. Well, the same thing when we sustain behaviors at work, because it is an effort to learn something new and then figuring out how to put it in your work. But unless we monitor and reinforce those behaviors, and this is truly what happens. You go in there in the first month, everybody's doing well. Yep, got it. Then what happens? We get down that slippery slope. And then we forget what we're going to do, or we go, oh, it was faster if I did it my way. I just don't, yeah, I just got to get it done. And pretty soon we forget everything that we learned and we go back to bad habits or we do a lot of workarounds. And so this is where sustaining change one takes effort, takes intention, and takes time. Okay, so we have to constantly monitor, and that's where we can bring our line managers who can say, "Oh, Susan, haven't been keeping up. You got to get on board." It's like, "Oh, yeah, I know. I got it." So it's the people that are closest to the end users that need to kind of watch, are people using it, using that new product, using that new tool. Certainly, do we need to provide training, do extra coaching and extra mentoring? Can we be a little flexible in what our expectations are? Maybe, maybe not. But making the biggest thing is we spent all this money on this change, even AI, people are spending millions, billions probably. But ensure value is delivered. If we're spending all this money, we want to get value out of it, both for the stakeholders and to the organization. So how can AI help us do that? Well, certainly can look at metrics, you put in hours, or maybe they have to log in when they're using AI or how they're using AI, or in a team meeting, listening for that. Does anybody have problems or barriers? You can actually do, little stand-ups as well. We use them in Agile all the time. Can use them for OCM as well. Looking for those coaching cues, drafting talking points. Maybe we need to say, hey, maybe we need to do a new, cheat sheet, new FAQs. Things change. We don't know at the beginning of the project the same stuff that we know at the end. Benefits tracking, value tracking. So the AI for this area is more about detection. Hey, I think we got an issue here, right? And And the detection is both AI, but you certainly need humans involved in that as well. So just some common AI tools in writing anything or developing anything like developing training or slides or presentations or whatever. Anytime communication, of course, ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot. Surveys, certainly can use AI medians. A lot of times we already have Copilot, so we just turn it on and then it can scribe and find the common themes or the critical points, which is great. Training, and these are just some examples. Searching, so just trying to think about what is the best AI tool you have for what you need. And so these are just a few, and you've probably heard about most of them. So getting started, just do the low risk first, you know. Start with simple analysis test. Maybe you've done some interviews and you Copilot recorded it so it can, kind of synthesize and find themes. Or you can, maybe you have some survey results and you can give that to them. So it can certainly do really simple analysis task. You still might want to set quality and review standards, what data is it looking at to make sure that it's not skewing you wrong, saying, hey, yeah, everybody loves this stuff. Well, and they really don't. So we got to kind of sometimes think about too is sometimes people won't say what they really feel. And so that's kind of more of a human factor that we have to look at. So I see some things in the chat. Yes, not always right, not always meaningful terminology. Yeah, that is very true. Very true. And what do you recommend graphics for slides? For graphics for slides, Claude's a lot better than ChatGPT. So something that you might take a look at if you do a lot of slides and a lot of presentations. So training your team, of course, on ethical AI usage, measuring time and value. So what can't AI do? Well, there's a lot it can't do. Because it is not a panacea. It is not the silver bullet. I haven't seen a silver bullet yet, and I've been in this industry for over 40 years. But it can't build trust. We still need people to build trust. I mean, it sort of can because it's like, oh yeah, it gives me pretty good answers, but you always have to use your critical thinking hat on. It can't lead people. We still need people for that. It can't resolve conflict. We still need people for that. Ethical judgments, it still doesn't make decisions. It can suggest things, certainly, but we still need to be able to make decisions. We own the accountability. It's a tool. It's a tool we can use. We can harness. We can make our lives easier. But at the end of the day, it's a tool. And then figuring out what we need. Oh, and Amy gave a good suggestion too for graphics. So thank you very much, Amy. And so I'm just curious, what OCM activity would you trust? Is it the planning, sustaining, um, adoption? Where would you, what are the things that you would trust to handle, AI to handle an OCM, and what would you never delegate? Any thoughts around that? I'm just curious. You can, I'll wait for a few answers. It looks like a lot of people agree with Amy. Napkin AI for graphics. So thank you very much for sharing that. I have not used that, but that is an excellent idea. So just think about, is there anything that you would use it for in your work or never would I use this for work? I'm just curious. Just some thoughts. Mass document reviews, yes. Assist with threat assessments, refining communications. Yep. Love the communication aspect. Base templating, that's so true, Raymond. So it is really good at some of the things that, that just we do over and over again, or how to put something, or how to find trends, or how to find, create templates. Yeah, putting the flow together, doing the report, absolutely, absolutely. Rewrite what I've composed. I do that all the time. It's like oftentimes it's clearer than I would be. Yeah. To rewrite my conversations, or be able to put it in more of a acceptable format for people to assimilate. Is there anything that you would not say, nope, not happening? I'm just curious at some of those ideas. Oh, common tools. Yep. Use it for themes, yep, feedback, questions, experience. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So going back, and plus the tools that were mentioned in here, here are the tools if you wanted to take a look at that or take a picture. I love that, Amy. Never delegate quality assurance. Well said. Well said. Yes, yes. Let's see, what else? I would never delegate sensitive information or final version without review. Yes, always review it. Always review it. Yeah. So, yeah, let's see, to go back here. Here we go. So, humans provide what AI can't, because you still have to interpret the context. You understand the context, and to build trust, empathy, manage emotions. We're emotional creatures, comes with us. It's about being human. And resistance, we build relationships. We build relationships with people, usually not with things. Um, Judgment and certainly model behavior. Humans still matter. This is not going to take a lot of our jobs. Simple things to do, yeah. What to watch out for is inaccurate, and I talked about this earlier. Data management, inaccurate or biased output, fabricated information, over reliance to go, oh, it must be right. No, it doesn't need to. Must is not a part of that. It's just going to take what it sees. It's pretty stupid that way in the sense, because it's just, also look what's out there. So whether you look at your own internal data or you look in external data, it just goes, looks what's out there, and there's still garbage out there. So you still need your critical thinking hat. Certainly watch privacy concerns or inappropriate data use. And you don't want to lose that human connection. It's like that, if you've ever seen the commercial about this guy who gets in a car that's driverless car, and then he goes to get coffee, and he just wants some coffee. He's got a robot making his coffee, and he goes, I just want to talk to somebody. Please. It's kind of cute, really, but we don't want to lose that human connection. That's what makes us special. That's what we need to be able to do. Oh, so yeah, won't ask AI to give me medical suggestions either. Yeah. And so then we need to consider ethical and responsible use. So having an AI policy in your organization, and many of you probably do, some type of governance. Transparent messaging, AI assisted, maybe with human reviewed. Keeping data privacy, we have to follow those data privacy. We can't just say, oh, just look at all the data I have inside and then just, disperse that out. Avoid using AI to manipulate behavior, manipulate, I'd even say manipulate data, because you can do that with your prompts. It's like, well, I want this and I don't want this. Well, then it's getting to be biased, if you want to just get it to do what you want it to do and say what you want it to say, it will do that. But then we're just bringing our confirmation bias into it. So, conduct those bias checks, validate that the data is correct, ensure that there's always a human in the loop to use their critical thinking and saying, hey, does this make sense? Because otherwise, we certainly could go off the cliff and that serves no one. So, tips: provide context when you're working with AI. Think about the goals, the audience constraints, give them as much context as it needs because it does help. Ask for different ideas and rationale. Request structured outputs. I say bullet points. Just give me bullet points. I don't want to read paragraphs. The tone, you can, and if there's any compliance rules or regulations or anything, and you know, um, I always ask, okay, is there anything when I'm doing anything, is there anything that I missed? And or where could this fail? I always ask where anything that I missed or anything that doesn't need to be there. I'm always asking that. And then I'll make a decision whether I think it should be or not be and moving forward. So, we already talked about this, so I think I am going to skip that. But just a summary is AI is great for repetitive work, for understanding trends and patterns and putting things together and communication. We still, as humans, need to apply the meaning, the commitment, the communication, the reinforcement of new behavior. So, but together, there's a lot of value. There's a lot of value. So with that said, I know I've got 1 minute. I've talked too long. I apologize. So any questions that I can answer?
Hey, Dr. Heidorn, I will go ahead and give our amazing audience a couple of seconds if there are any last minute questions or comments or feedback at all. But in the meantime, I did want to remind everyone that we will be sending you a recording of this webinar in an email after the session. So be on the lookout for that if you want to review or check back on anything you may have missed. And I also went ahead and dropped in our resource hub with all our amazing links to all of the things we talked about today. A little bit about watermark learning, a little bit about change management foundations, and a little bit more about our upcoming webinars. Alrighty, everyone. It looks like we got a lot of amazing engagement this session. So thank you all so much. We're getting a lot of thank yous, a lot of great sessions.
All right. Thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of your week and a wonderful weekend. So hopefully we'll see you at the next one.
Alrighty, everyone. Bye for now. See you in the next one.